Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Ever notice how sometimes the biggest stories get the least coverage? Something transformative happens that changes everything and nobody notices? Well, it's happened here. For the last 2 years or so, the rest of us have watched as the Democratic Party has been utterly transformed into something totally different. What was once the stodgy headquarters of the center-left establishment, the party of Harry Reid and Steny Hoyer and guys like that, now looks like a scene out of Burning Man, so far without the nudity. Starting on Inauguration Day, Democrats erupted in a primal scream, and they have not yet stopped yelling. Everything changed once Trump got elected. Celebrities threatened to abandon this country. Business leaders started behaving like political activists. Candidates for office embraced positions so extreme that they'd rejected them just months before. News reporters became rigid propagandists. And then, weirdest of all, comedians lost their sense of humor. Here, for example, is deeply unfunny comedian Samantha Bee lecturing America about Ivanka Trump last night. Watch.
You know, Ivanka, that's a beautiful photo of you and your child, but let me just say, one mother to another, do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless. He listens to you. Put on something tight and low-cut and tell your father to stop it.
A dumb person's political harangue masquerading as comedy. Well, profoundly sad filmmaker Michael Moore proclaimed all what you just saw, quote, brilliant. He called Samantha Bee a truth teller. Comedian Billy Eichner wrote on Twitter he thought Bee was being, quote, generous. Tonight, Bee is receiving an award from the Television Academy for, quote, leveraging the dynamic power of television to inspire social change. Well, Samantha Bee later apologized for that on Twitter, assuming a tweet rates as an apology, but doubtless that's just temporary. She'll likely be bragging about all of this at another awards ceremony very soon. Meanwhile, Kathy Griffin, who is probably the single unhappiest person in this country, used her appearance on a daytime show called The View to launch another political lecture. When White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders responded to that, Griffin wrote a profane tweet attacking Sarah Sanders. Blah, 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 F you, basically. Where did Kathy Griffin learn to talk like that? Well, maybe from U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, who is now regularly using the F word in her public appearances. Here's one.
So what about President Trump? Has he kept any of these promises? No. No. Fundamentally, if we are not helping people, we should go the home.
Now, she's not the quickest of the U.S. senators, but even so, it says something broader about what's happening in the Democratic Party. So the left is arguing that Trump is radical. How have they responded? So now they shout way more radical by going completely off the edge. They say Trump is vulgar. Okay. So now they shout profanity on television and at campaign events. Amazingly, Trump has somehow convinced the Democratic Party to completely destroy itself. No one ever says that, but it may be the biggest change he has brought to this country. It's fascinating. Radio show host Tammy Bruce joins us tonight. She's been watching carefully. So don't you think it's interesting? I mean, so if you're making the case that Trump is kind of out there and he says things that are ill-considered and he's profane, you know, that's all kind of true. Wouldn't your response be, I'm the responsible one? Instead, they're out trumping Trump by like 3x, and they've gone so crazy that they may not even win the House back. Why are they doing that?
Well, look, these women are making Trump at this point look like Sir Galahad.
Exactly.
When it comes to their behavior. And I think his third and fourth terms at this point have been pretty much secured after these displays.
It's totally true.
It's not new. I mean, what's happened is, because of their rage, that the curtain's been pulled back. They just don't care about hiding the nature of who they are. You didn't mention Sally Field. Sally Field, the actress, the Flying Nun, also defended the use of the C word. And at the same time, what she's saying is, what they're trying to do is normalize the debasement of women in the name of being able to attack a woman with whom they disagree because they think she's conservative, but of course the irony is Ivanka is not a conservative. It is a meltdown, but it is a reveal also, I think, why someone like Weinstein could survive so long in that world.
That's right.
When you're willing to reduce and have no principles, when you refuse to stand up for what's right because someone's a political opponent, that anything goes. So the American people are seeing what this means. They're seeing that this is certainly not a framework not only of their values, but of a kind of an ugliness. Now, At the same time, look, people in media make mistakes. On the fly, that we know this, you genuinely can regret something and apologize. The problem with what the Samantha Bee dynamic represents, which is different to some degree from Roseanne Barr, who's doing a tweet, it was scripted. It was clearly edited with an editing team. Then it was taped. Then it aired. Then it was put on social media, and it was promoted. And when those vile misogynistic words started to trend on Twitter, her executive producer was excited.
Well, so that's the thing. And by the way, we should point out that she works for the same network that owns CNN. And look, I mean, I've worked in newsrooms my whole life. I use vulgarity. I enjoy it. I don't want to be a blue nose about it. But that one word that she used, I don't know any man who uses that word because it is kind of the one word that is actually degrading. It's the thing that feminists are always telling us. That word really is. Why that word?
It's fascinating. It reduces us to a vile terminology, to a part of our body, into the ultimate debasement of who we are as women. And this transcends politics and party and everything else. This is about loathing and hate. They have no ideas. They see the president is successful. We should all be happy that he is because of the nature of what he's been able to accomplish. And yet, because they don't know how to counter it, it returns into this, ultimately it's the fraud of people like Schneiderman or Weinstein, the nature of this kind of attack, the misogyny. That was my first book in 2001. That misogyny and sexism, the homophobia, racism lives on the left. And again, it's not about if you don't like something someone has said, we can all deal with that.
Right.
And we've all made mistakes. This is a concerted, scripted attitude. And then for other women to support it and try to normalize. Sally Field was well liked to some degree. To try to normalize this debasement means they at least have gone off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, I get that people have, disagreements with Trump, but these people are scary. I mean, I don't think they should be anywhere near power. They're starting to really scare me. I'm not just saying that. I watch this stuff every day. Anyway, Tammy, great to see you. Thanks
for having me on.
That smart analysis, always.
Thank you.
Well, the beauty of being a liberal political analyst in 2018 is it's really simple. No matter what the issue is or the concern might be, it's a safe bet that you can tie it directly to Trump. No matter what, hurricanes, higher gas prices, the ongoing war or famine in Absurdistan, even Roseanne Barr's Twitter feed, all of them are about Trump. Watch this as college professor and professional shakedown artist Michael Eric Dyson shows how it's done. This is MSNBC last night.
Well, we got a bigot in chief and we got a racist in residence. That's what it is. He has unleashed some of the most horrendous viewpoints, bigotries, and racism in this country. He's legitimated them. He's validated them. He said, look, it's okay. Come out the closet, stand up and speak straightforwardly, and tell the world what you believe.
We lower our standards. It's unbelievable. I know we all hate Trump, but it's so stupid. Not stupid is Mark Stein, who joins us tonight. What do you make of this? I mean, I feel like I don't want to overstate, I don't want to be hysterical like they are, but I feel like we're watching actually something profound. They're melting down, it looks like to me.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on, Tucker. I mean, we live in a coarsened culture. And everybody has said that. I think one of the reasons why Samantha Bee, for example, used the C word is that the F word has been drained of its power.
No, that's exactly right.
It was when, I believe, it was Ken Tynan, I think, who first said the F word on TV on the BBC back in the 60s. The Irish playwright Brendan Behan had done it a couple of years before, but he was so drunk that nobody actually understood that that's the word he had used. So Ken Tynan got the credit for it on the BBC. And that word has so lost its force, in part because it's now said routinely on family shows that they've had to move to, Samantha Bee had to move to the C word. What I find interesting was the crowd went deliriously wild about it. There's no joke there. There's no insight there. There's no particular point there. But the fact that she said the C word has the crowd. Well, we really got our value for money. If we'd been here, 120 years ago, we'd have wanted to see a trapeze artist or a tap dancer or an Irish tenor. But today we're happy to go into a theatre and cheer deliriously when somebody says says the C word. And that's actually something that, if anyone digs that clip out in several decades, they'll be interested to look at, I think.
Well, it really is like looking at old pictures of the Cultural Revolution from China, with all these, children with their little red books and saluting all this nonsense, and you're thinking, how could a huge group of people go simultaneously insane? And it's just mass hysteria. It's a human thing. So what, in the end, is the effect of this? Do normal people look on and say, Samantha Bee has got to be, Kathy Griffin too, two of the unhappiest people in America. I don't want anything they're selling. Or do they say, wow, sign me up for whatever she's got?
No, I think that you're right to detect a certain joylessness in it. I think there's also a logic, though, because we're on two incompatible tracks. On the one hand, you have this general coarsening F-word, C-word, C-word, F-word. But on the other, you have ever more protected classes of people. So you have people you can't say anything about because they're black, they're gay, they're Muslim, they're transgender, whatever's next down the pike. Which means that it's actually only people who are associated with Trump or who are religious conservatives or who are whatever. It's a very narrow sliver of people you can unleash the blizzard of F and C words on. And that's the contradiction. And as we've talked about before, Tucker, it's actually killing comedy. I mean, the fantastic thing about this clip is that it's a supposed comedy show. It's got writers. It's, as Tammy was saying, it's pre-taped. It's all carefully edited, but there actually isn't a joke in there underneath. There's just the word.
So if you could just quickly, I know it was only a couple of years ago, but remind me why NBC fired Billy Bush. He laughed at a joke that was less vulgar than this, and he got fired and they destroyed his life because why? Do you remember? Right. I don't remember.
No, exactly, and that's the injustice here. I mean, Roseanne, who I don't think is any kind of conservative, I never said that, but Roseanne has had 40 years of work vaporized over her tweet, and unlike Samantha Bee, she's actually funny, and she was funny in a lefty way. She had lesbian kisses 30 years ago, but her lesbian kiss has been vaporized with everything else because she's perceived as supporting Trump. That double standard is ridiculous.
And it's been scrubbed from digital. You can't, it's like the Dukes of Hazzard. You can't find it. Unbelievable. Mark Stein, thank you for chronicling this revolution with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Last time we told you about a series of blog posts apparently written by MSNBC weekend anchor Joy Reid more than a decade ago. At the time, Reid was not the humorless progressive robot you know so well today. At the time, her views on immigration, for example, were somewhere to the right of Donald Trump, and that makes sense since mass immigration hurts poor people the most. Well, tonight we have a new set of antique Joy Reid blog posts uncovered by BuzzFeed. In one post entitled Baghdad John Strikes Again, Reid shared an image of John McCain's face superimposed onto the body of the Virginia Tech mass shooter. Couldn't do that today. Reid also promoted a 9/11 conspiracy documentary. She attacked Congressman Barney Frank of Massachusetts for the crime of being gay, and she wrote a satirical piece about Tony Blair's son visiting gay bathhouses in the U.S. Spicy. Reid, of course, previously claimed that her blog had somehow been retroactively hacked by unseen saboteurs, probably Russian agents or Macedonians or something. That's almost certainly a lie, but it was definitely amusing. How will she explain these? Well, we're still awaiting a new excuse from NBC News. As soon as they make one up, of course, we'll be the first to tell you. Next up, the president says his campaign was spied on. His enemies say no, it wasn't. The media don't seem to care either way. What really happened? We're going to get to the facts of this story once and for all next. Well, a few weeks ago, a number of left-of-center media outlets, including the New York Times and the Washington Post, reported that during the 2016 presidential election, the Obama Justice Department received reports from an FBI informant who surreptitiously gathered information on members of the Trump campaign without their knowledge. Subsequent reporting from other press outlets confirmed that story. Fox News can now also confirm it. It happened. And yet, remarkably, many of those same media outlets are now claiming that none of this is real or ever was real. It didn't happen. People with hairspray and artificial tans are nodding into the camera and telling you that right now. A couple of high-profile Republicans, including Congressman Trey Gowdy, echoed that claim. There was no spying by the Obama FBI on the Trump campaign, they say. Anyone who claims otherwise is a propagandist or a lunatic. But who are the propagandists here? And what actually happened? We express a lot of opinions on the show, but tonight, for a minute anyway, we think it's important to get to the facts of this case. Byron New York has been covering the story from the beginning for the Washington Examiner. He joins us now. So I think look, there are a lot of ways to interpret a fact set, but let's just go through slowly so we can all understand it, what we know. My understanding is that we know that the Obama FBI had an informant attached who was speaking to people on the Trump campaign and reporting back to the Obama DOJ. Do we know that?
We do know that. We do know that from the reporting. We also know it from the testimony last year of Glenn Simpson. He was the guy who founded Fusion GPS and who hired Christopher Steele, who actually was a former spy, to make the Trump dossier. In his testimony to the Senate.
Was the Trump campaign aware of this?
No.
No. So there was someone working for Intel/law enforcement agency gathering information about the campaign without its knowledge and reporting back.
According to Simpson, it was someone who had essentially volunteered. He was not recruited to infiltrate the Trump operation, but he volunteered. He was an FBI informant, and if you look at what he did, he tried to insinuate himself with some members of the Trump campaign.
So then why are anchors telling us, reporters, journalists telling us, there was no spying on the Trump campaign?
Well, I think that, first of all, the informant part is just a fact. We need to know more about it, but it is a fact.
The New York Times reported it. I read it.
Absolutely, and so did the Post, and so have other people. But there is kind of a stupid semantic battle going on between spy and informant, and I think there's a couple of reasons for this. Perhaps people who are in the CIA and those types say, well, this is not real spy tradecraft. It's not that kind of spying. But mostly, I think the reason is President Trump, who is a master simplifier, has used the word spy, and if he uses the word spy, then it must be rejected.
But nothing to do with Trump. I mean, I think that seems like an appropriate word. Why is it not? In its vernacular sense, to gather information without the knowledge of the person from whom you're gathering it. Why is that not spying?
That appears to be exactly what they were doing. The informant that we hear about most often approached Carter Page, Sam Clovis, George Papadopoulos. These are figures in the Trump campaign. Very friendly approaches. Oh, we need to have coffee. I've read some of your stuff. You do a great job. Let's talk. And then in the case of Papadopoulos, at least reportedly, was saying, well, you know about the Russians in these emails. Kind of
so if
getting
we
information out
know
of that
this,
person.
let me just ask really quick, because you're a journalist and you cover this. I keep hearing people say, we know that's not true. Has other information arisen that I somehow missed that prove what you just said false?
No, this actually happened. This is a big semantic fight people are having.
So it's dishonesty is what we're watching then. They're lying. They're mischaracterizing this on purpose to hide something that happened for political reasons.
I think the biggest reason is the president said this. They must try to knock it.
Thank you. I thought I was going crazy watching this stuff.
It's a fact.
Byron New York, thank you.
Thank you.
So an FBI informant reporting to the Obama Justice Department did secretly gather information on Trump campaign officials, but never told the Trump campaign about that. All the usual geniuses demand that you not call this spying. Okay, what was it? Joining us now was Julian Epstein, a former chief counsel of Democrats in the House Judiciary Committee. So why is that not spying?
Oh, I agree with everything Byron just said. I mean, I think you are getting caught up in a semantical thing.
I'm not.
Well, the debate is getting caught up. A spy, I think what people think of when they think of a spy is a plant inside a campaign that's getting all kinds of information about the campaign operations. That's not what happened here, by everybody's admission. By everybody's admission, what happened here was the use of an FBI confidential informant, which is standard operating procedure in the FBI. Once the FBI has evidence that a foreign government is trying to co-opt certain individuals who are part of a campaign, in this case Papadopoulos and Carter Page. The FBI informant was simply trying to get, once Carter Page had flown to Russia, had bragged in emails
I'm aware of all this. I guess, but he was spying on the campaign.
This was a effort for the FBI to investigate whether or not, based on information they had already gotten,
understand that
there was validity to the Russians
some people have been
these two individuals.
I get it. I understand.
As foreign agents.
There are two levels, but let's just hit the first one. That's spying on the campaign. You're saying it was justified. I'm open-minded.
I'm saying it's very, very limited to
hold on.
particular individuals.
But it was spying. So when I see these morons on television passing off this propaganda, there wasn't spying. It was spying. So stop lying, A. B, to the question of whether or not it was justified. If they really were concerned about this, that these two people attached to the campaign were in the employ somehow of the Russian government, why didn't they tell the Trump campaign?
Well, they did. They did.
Yeah, they says they didn't.
Well, the FBI went to the Trump campaign in July of 2016 and
warned them that they
Russians,
were looking at, that they were spying on the campaign.
No, that the Russians were trying to infiltrate.
No, but why didn't they tell them?
Both campaigns, the Clinton campaign and the Trump campaign.
Okay.
Because you normally wouldn't, in the course of investigation, you normally wouldn't go and tell other people that might be caught up in illegal activity that there's certain things
you wouldn't tell the
No
candidate?
FBI would do that.
So here you have the Obama administration.
Not in an ongoing administration.
The Obama administration doing this. Obama has come out against Donald Trump's candidacy, and yet his FBI agents are conducting this spying. And yet they didn't tell. Why not tell Trump? Did they believe he was working for Putin? I mean, seriously.
So there's two reasons. You make it sound like Obama's commanding the FBI.
It's his FBI
to investigate individuals that the intelligence.
We don't know that actually.
So there's zero evidence of that. I doubt. Byron would say that there's any evidence of that.
I'm not saying that. I'm merely saying they worked for the Obama administration. We don't know the answer because all of these media morons are telling us we have no right to ask. I'm an American. I do have a right. And I want to know what this is about.
Yeah, I don't think there was any political involvement in this decision.
We don't know that.
I think this was. There's no evidence of that, Tucker.
There's no evidence of anything because it's been shut down. We don't know what happened.
Well, the Gang of Eight got a fair amount of information when they met with the Justice Department earlier in the week.
I don't care what some politician knows.
So I'm sure if the loyalists had any information that there was a political involvement in the decision to investigate, that would be.
God only knows. I don't trust any of these people. I'm an American citizen and a taxpayer. I've lived here all my life, and I want to know what the hell this was about. And I have a right to know.
But you're also arguing that you don't trust the FBI and the security agencies.
I'm saying, why should I trust any of this? You have one administration spying on its political opponents. We know that. It's been reported by people who hate Trump. There's no debate about that. Why shouldn't I know the full context to it? That's fair.
I would just go back, and I kind of agree with Byron. I mean, this is a case in which the intelligence agencies got information, in one case about Papadopoulos bragging to a foreign diplomat
but why not tell
that he had contacts with the Russians. Hold on, let me finish the point. And then Carter Page, who had gone to Russia, who had been under investigation for years, who had been tried to be recruited by Russian spies in 2013. This is credible evidence by the intelligence agencies.
You're evading my question, and I'll end with this. Why not tell Donald Trump that we are spying on your campaign? We've talked to these guys surreptitiously. Why would you keep that from him? Why doesn't he have a right to know that?
Because the information at that point was that the Trump campaign was actively soliciting information from the Russians. At least Papadopoulos was.
So they had evidence.
And potentially Carter Page.
But there's no evidence that Donald Trump did. There's no evidence now.
But also no knowledge on the FBI as to how far up the campaign it goes. So why would you inform a potential target of an investigation that they're being targeted on counterintelligence?
Because
no FBI would do that.
Political campaign. Boy, if this were happening on the other side, as God watches, I would be honest enough to say, whoa.
Let's agree on
if
something.
Trump was doing this to Elizabeth Warren a year from now, I would be very worried about it.
And I think that's an honest point. And let us finish on this point, because I think we could actually find some agreement. I think the idea of the FBI ever going into a campaign, a political campaign, whether it's Clinton or Trump, is very disturbing and should meet very, very high standards.
Good.
The point we should agree on is the Inspector General ought to look at this, and the Inspector General ought to determine
like yesterday, and stop
kosher, or whether it wasn't kosher.
I think the evidence will show without it. But first, if I hear another person on television lecture me about how there was no spying when there was spying, I'm going to say, you're lying.
It's a semantical discussion.
It's true.
It's a use of a confidential informant.
I mean, that's just another euphemism. All right, now they're barking at me. We got to go.
It's an important distinction.
Patrons in a bar in Portland recently financed a reparations happy hour because nothing compensates for historical sins like cocktails. The activist who organized it joins us next. Well, a bar in Portland, Oregon offered a reparations happy hour earlier this week in which white people were not invited to attend, but were invited to pay for. About 100 people did pay their racial indulgences. That provided enough cash to cover free drinks for the non-white people who showed up. What is this about exactly? Well, Cameron Whitten is the activist who organized it, and he joins us tonight. Hey, Cameron, how you doing?
Hey, Tucker. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you. So what's the thinking here?
So reparations happy hour is event, a successful event that was put on by nonprofit Brown Hope. You can find more information out on brownhope.org. And what we did was that 40 black, brown, and indigenous people attended this event. We had over 150 white people donate. And this wasn't about alcohol. I've been sober for 27 years, so you can trust that I was not putting on an alcoholic event. What we did was we built community, and we made a space to heal from the impacts of racism. And I believe that you as a conservative can respect the fact that we had people voluntarily support this event and show that we as individuals can take action to heal from the impacts of racism.
It's a little patronizing, though. I mean, because the assumption is that all black people are poor and need the help of white people, and it makes the white people feel virtuous, like they're coming to the rescue, and I don't know how it makes the black people feel, but it probably makes some of them feel patronized, I would think.
Thank you, Tucker. So I saw your show, I saw your segment about racism, Roseanne Barr. We're both going to agree that racism is real. We both agree that racism goes two ways. What we're saying is that racial disparities, if you look at our country, the color of your skin is a predictor of how long you'll live, what kind of economic level you'll be in, and other factors. And so what we're saying is that...
It's actually, Cameron, as someone who's familiar with the numbers, let me just say it's not quite that simple. I mean, broadly maybe, but I mean, African immigrants to this country have higher income levels than native-born white Americans. So it's not quite as black and white as you're suggesting. And I guess that's kind of the point that I am making, is that not all black people are the same, not all white people are the same. You have different attitudes, different income levels. And this kind of suggests they are, because you're saying if you're a certain color, you're in one category. If you're in another color, you're in another category. That makes me uncomfortable. Why does it make you uncomfortable?
Well, we're saying that racism is real and that racial disparities exist. And so we're offering a solution, saying that we are calling on folks from a privileged demographic to pay into a solution and invest in the leadership of black, brown, and indigenous people.
By paying
we
for
don't care about exceptions. We care about the facts. And the facts state that racial disparities exist, and Brown Hope has offered solutions for us to build
let me just ask you this.
The impacts of racism.
Okay, I mean, I think it's a very clever deal you got going. Pay for my drinks and everything will be fine.
I am clever. Thank you, Tucker. Thank you. I'm very clever.
You are an entrepreneur in a hilarious way. But let me just ask this. Would it make you feel...
Who would have thought that a tiny event that already happened in Portland, and now I'm on Fox News, now New York Times is covering it? This was a clever event. We elevated reparations.
I agree.
I'm genius.
So
we're real on that.
But let me ask you this. Would it make you uncomfortable if someone who made less than you did paid for your meal or your drinks because you were a different color? Would that make you feel uncomfortable?
So what we're looking at is the real wealth disparity in our country, and we know that the wealth disparity between blacks and whites is around 10 to 1. So we know that the disparity is real.
Hold on. No. What's just speaking in general
Give me your
terms.
counterfacts.
Well, I already gave you one of my counterfacts, which is African immigrants make more than white Americans on average.
Are you uncomfortable talking about the realities of this country?
Well, actually,
because I'm not giving you. You're upset that I'm using general terms. You're upset that I'm using statistics.
No.
You seem uncomfortable.
I'm amused. But let me ask you this.
Me too.
Does it make you uncomfortable to generalize on the basis of race in the way that you are, despite the fact you're making money from it, which again, as a capitalist, I applaud. I mean, it's an amazing scam. But does it make you uncomfortable at all? It is.
No, so even looking at the civil rights movement, we saw that racial disparities existed, and you could be like, oh, generally, some people in the civil rights era were doctors, or some people could vote. So we've always had exceptionalism. But in the general fact, look at the facts. The facts matter, and we know that racial disparities exist.
So empowerment is
just like the civil rights movement, we're being resourceful. We're working with our partners to invest in this work. We were successful. We were successful.
Send me a guilt offering. Pay for my drinks. Yeah, you are winning. You are winning this game. You are the winner. I love that. Cameron,
I can tell you, the majority of people who came to we got $10 in cash, and the majority of folks who were there, they spent that money on gas, gave that money to friends, paid for rent. This was not about alcohol. We raised a great issue. We called it happy hours.
And you made money.
This event was about...
You made money, Cameron. That's right.
We elevated reparations. We elevated reparations.
Good job. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to... You're a capitalist. I know that. I thought I was a capitalist until I met you. I'm amused. Cameron, thank you. Great to see you. Well, up next, executives at Purdue Pharma, the company at the center of the opioid epidemic, were lying, it turns out, when they said that they didn't know their drugs were being abused. They did know, and we've got details for you next. Well, executives at the opioid manufacturer Purdue Pharma have claimed for years they weren't aware that their flagship drug, the one from which they made most of their profits, OxyContin, was being widely abused by users across the country. But now, after making billions of dollars off the worst drug crisis in the history of this country, one in which tens of thousands of people have died, the New York Times has uncovered documents that show that Purdue Pharma executives were aware of the abuse, even as they aggressively marketed the drug to new users, some of whom died. Barry Meyer is the investigative journalist who broke the story. He's the author of Painkiller, An Empire of Deceit and the Origin of America's Opioid Epidemic, and he joins us now. Barry, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you.
This story has not received, I don't think, enough attention. So tell us what Purdue Pharma knew.
Remarkably, what they knew was that the drug was being abused. They had gotten special permission from the FDA to promote this drug as less prone to abuse than other drugs. And they kind of took this claim, they ran with it, they made claims that were not true, but during that whole time, they were aware that people were abusing the drug. They had reports from their salesmen, they had reports from doctors, they had reports from law enforcement officials, and they sat on these reports. They made no mention of them to regulators, to authorities, to lawmakers, and they just kept selling and selling and selling.
So, looking back, I mean, this drug was shipped to some counties, famously in Kentucky and West Virginia, in quantities that weren't justifiable under any circumstances, legitimate circumstances you can imagine. So it must have been obvious what was going on. They must have known. Why has no one been charged from this company?
Well, in fact, the prosecutors that investigated this company wanted to charge them. They wanted to bring very serious charges against the executives. Our report and the material that is in Painkiller is drawn from a secret Justice Department report in which prosecutors recommended charging 3 top executives of Purdue Pharma with serious felonies that would have sent them to prison. But they got stopped by top Justice Department officials who blocked these indictments.
Who are the officials who blocked those indictments?
They were the top people in the Bush administration who were running the Justice Department at that time.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
So do you think we've passed a point where it would be impossible to charge the people partly responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans for crimes?
Well, the statute of limitations is probably run on these crimes. It's probably impossible to bring criminal charges. There are a lot of cities and states that are bringing civil charges, civil lawsuits against Purdue Pharma. I mean, I think the important thing is this. We are now in the midst, and you've reported on this, of a great public health crisis. The only way to get out of it is to understand how it started.
Yes, exactly.
That is the story that Painkiller tells. And we need to understand that story. We need to know who needs to be held to account. We can't treat corporate executives with kid gloves when these companies are flooding our country with millions and millions of pain pills.
Life expectancy for middle-class Americans just went down for the 3rd year in a row 2 days ago. Barry, I appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Really valuable stuff. Up next, final exam. The question is, can you beat our 2 professional news experts at remembering the news? That's next. Time now for Final Exam. We determine which of our Fox News regulars has been paying attention to the news. You'd assume all of them. Ho, 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 but we're about to find out. This week's defending champion is Fox News correspondent Griff Jenkins. He's won a number of times in a row. His latest challenger, our friend Town Hall editor Katie Pavlich. Now, as you know, Katie, your competitor has won 4 times in a row. But each time he's been wearing a sling for his injured arm, which he destroyed on Fox and Friends weekend.
Oh.
Now he's out of the sling, which makes him even faster, so good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
I know you know the rules, but in
First
case you
time, we'll see how it goes.
I need both arms to beat Katie. She's going to absolutely
She's
kill
really
me.
good. This is what he does.
I think this is him.
Okay, so hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first person to buzz in gets to answer the question. You have to wait until I've completed the question before buzzing in. Each correct answer gets you 1 point. Each incorrect answer subtracts a point from your total. Best of 5 wins.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Outstanding. Question 1. The President of the United States just told reporters he is considering a pardon not only for former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, but also for which domestic goddess? Katie Pavlich.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. Is it Martha Stewart?
A pardon now for Martha Stewart. Stewart, you'll remember, was convicted back in 2004 of obstructing justice and lying to the government about why she unloaded stock just before the price plummeted. The president says she, quote, used to be one of my biggest fans.
Martha Stewart, not only a genius at placing,
On the board.
convicted felon.
We go downhill from here.
Well done.
Very good.
Come on,
All right,
Sling. Come
question
on, Sling.
2. Katie's in the lead. This is a multiple choice question. France, the country, just discovered its own version of Spider-Man. A man from Mali, the country of Mali, scaled the front of an apartment building to save a toddler from falling off the balcony. That man has now been offered a new job as a reward for his heroism. Is that job A, a high-rise window washer, B, a fireman, or C, a circus acrobat? Griff Jenkins.
Fireman.
Fireman, or as we say in our country, firefighter. Is it fireman?
A 22-year-old being called a real-life Spider-Man, bravely using his own momentum to swing from one balcony to another, reaching the child in less than 30 seconds.
Oh.
He has also been given a job as a fireman.
Good for him.
Outstanding.
Very
That was
cool.
kind of compelling. I hadn't seen that.
that was
Very
good.
good. I'm not up on the
waking
news.
up.
1-1. Question 3. In Brockworth, England this week, citizens competed in an unusual competitive tradition. Participants hurled themselves down a steep hill. It was a race to catch a rolling piece of what type of food? Griff Jenkins.
Cheese.
Cheese?
Cheese.
To the tape we go.
These people chase cheese down a hill. The cheese is rolling down at about 70 miles an hour. There's the winner, and he didn't even win any money. He just won the cheese.
He just got cheese.
All worth it.
This is what it means to be a Fox News reporter, Katie. You're up on the cheese stories.
I'm a domestic reporter. I don't know if it's international business. I gotta.
You were told there was no foreign policy on the exam.
Yeah,
You cheated.
well, whatever.
Okay, so it's 2-1. Question 4. In the age of email, the United States Postal Service is trying something new in order to attract business. This summer, the Postal Service will introduce a scratch and sniff what? Postal Service. Katie Pavlich.
Stamp.
Stamp. What else could it be? I don't know. Let's roll the tape.
For the first time ever, scratch and sniff stamps will be available. They will have images, as you can see, of delicious ice pops. They'll smell sweet and delicious, like summer.
Smell it before it goes in the mail with all the other mail.
That clip was from GMA, so I just want to say that Fox News can confirm it is indeed a scratch and sniff stamp.
Stamp.
So you were right. All right, so now we're 2-2, head-to-head, sudden death.
Yeah.
Griff Jenkins always finds himself in this place. He brings it right to the end. Here's the final question. Which Tennessee United States Senator was just booed by a hometown crowd when the president called out his name at a rally in Nashville? Katie Pavlich.
Senator Bob Corker.
Senator
Retiring.
Bob Corker. Hold on, let me just say before we roll the tape. This will decide the outcome of tonight's final exam. Roll the tape, please.
Senator Bob Corker.
Oh! And the rain has ended. Katie Pavlich, I cannot believe that you dethroned Griff Jenkins.
Did you go easy on me?
Congratulations.
I hope
No,
not.
me. I
promise.
took the sling off. I was ready. I knew I was against a
take it.
fierce competitor. Congratulations.
But isn't
Thank you
that
very much.
interesting? It's one of those paradoxes. It's almost like out of the Beatitudes. It's like now that you're not disabled, you're weaker.
Yes, apparently so. And, I should point out, too, for a boy from Tennessee beat from a gorgeous woman from Arizona, it's just, poetic justice.
Well, you did
I'll
it
take it.
graciously. And congratulations
Thank
to
you so
Katie.
much.
You win our Eric Wemple Terrified
Fantastic.
in Sphere mug. I don't know. There's his picture. You can drink your coffee.
I get
there
to hold
tomorrow.
this?
Katie Pavlich, thank you. It was great to see you.
Thank you
Griff,
so much.
job well
Cheers.
done. We'll have you
Cheers.
back for the round of champions.
Sounds good.
Join us next week when we determine which Fox News regulars are paying attention to the job they're paid to do. We'll be right back. Now for Final Exam, we determine which of our Fox News regulars has been paying attention to the news. You'd assume all of them. We're about to find out. This week's defending champion is Fox News correspondent Griff Jenkins. He's won a number of times in a row. His latest challenger, our friend Town Hall editor Katie Pavlich. Now, as you know, Katie, your competitor has won 4 times in a row. But each time he's been wearing a sling for his injured arm, which he destroyed on Fox and Friends weekend.
Oh.
Now he's out of the sling, which makes him even faster. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You know the rules, but in case you don't.
First time, we'll see how it goes.
I need both arms to beat Katie. She's going to absolutely
She's really good. This is what he does.
I think this is him.
Okay, so hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first person to buzz in gets to answer the question. You have to wait until I've completed the question before buzzing in. Each correct answer gets you 1 point. Each incorrect answer subtracts a point from your total. Best of 5 wins.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Outstanding. Question 1. The President of the United States just told reporters he is considering a pardon not only for former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, but also for which domestic goddess? Katie Pavlich.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. Is it Martha Stewart?
A pardon now for Martha Stewart. Stewart, you'll remember, was convicted back in 2004 of obstructing justice and lying to the government about why she unloaded stock just before the price plummeted. The president says she, quote, used to be one of my biggest fans.
Martha Stewart, not only a genius at placing,
on the board,
convicted felon.
I go downhill from here.
Well done.
Very good.
Come on,
all right.
Sling.
Question 2. Katie's in the lead. This is a multiple choice question. France, the country, just discovered its own version of Spider-Man. A man from Mali, the country of Mali, scaled the front of an apartment building to save a toddler from falling off the balcony. That man has now been offered a new job as a reward for his heroism. Is that job A, a high-rise window washer, B, a fireman, or C, a circus acrobat? Griff Jenkins.
Fireman.
Fireman, or as we say in our country, firefighter. Is it fireman?
A 22-year-old being called a real-life Spider-Man, bravely using his own momentum to swing from one balcony to another, reaching the child in less than 30 seconds. Oh. He has also been given a job as a fireman.
Good for him.
Outstanding. That was kind of compelling. I hadn't seen that. Very good. I'm not up on the news. 1-1. Question 3. In Brockworth, England this week, citizens competed in an unusual competitive tradition. Participants hurled themselves down a steep hill. It was a race to catch a rolling piece of what type of food? Griff Jenkins.
Cheese.
Cheese?
Cheese.
To the tape we go.
These people chase cheese down a hill. The cheese is rolling down at about 70 miles an hour. There's the winner, and he didn't even win any money. He just won the cheese.
He just got cheese.
All worth it. For
This is what it means to be a Fox News reporter, Katie. You're up on the cheese stories.
I'm a domestic reporter. I don't know if it's international business.
You were told there was no foreign policy on the exam.
Yeah,
you cheated.
well, whatever.
Okay, so it's 2-1. Question 4. In the age of email, the United States Postal Service is trying something new in order to attract business. This summer, the Postal Service will introduce a scratch and sniff what? Postal Service. Katie Pavlich.
Stamp.
Stamp. What else could it be? I don't know. Let's roll the tape.
For the first time ever, scratch and sniff stamps will be available. They will have images, as you can see, of delicious ice pops. They'll smell sweet and delicious, like summer.
Smell it before it goes in the mail with all the other mail.
That clip was from GMA, so I just want to say that Fox News can confirm it is indeed a scratch and sniff stamp.
Stamp.
So you were right. All right, so now we're 2-2, head-to-head, sudden death.
Yeah.
Griff Jenkins always finds himself in this place. He brings it right to the end. Here's the final question. Which Tennessee United States Senator was just booed by a hometown crowd when the president called out his name at a rally in Nashville? Katie Pavlich.
Senator Bob Corker.
Senator
Retiring.
Bob Corker. Hold on, let me just say before we roll the tape, this will decide the outcome of tonight's final exam. Roll the tape, please.
Senator Bob Corker.
Oh! And the rain has ended. Katie Pavlich, I cannot believe that you dethroned Griff Jenkins.
Did you go easy on me?
Congratulations.
I hope
No,
not.
me. I
promise?
took the sling off. I was ready. I knew I was against a fierce competitor. Congratulations.
But isn't
Thank you
that
very much.
interesting? It's one of those paradoxes. It's almost like out of the Beatitudes. It's like now that you're not disabled, you're weaker.
Yes, apparently so. And, I should point out, too, for a boy from Tennessee beat from a gorgeous woman from Arizona, it's just, poetic justice.
Well, you did
I'll
it
take it.
graciously. And congratulations
Thank
to
you so
Katie.
much.
You win our Eric Wemple Terrified
Fantastic.
in Fear mug. I don't know. There's his picture. You can drink your coffee.
I get to hold this?
Katie Pavlich, thank you. It was great to see you.
Thank you so much. Cheers.